Okay. Okay, I'm hitting go live on Instagram. It's not working. Okay, there. Now it's working. Okay. What about Mary Magdalene? Has people still gathering over her even 2,000 years later? This is the question that we're going to explore today and talking about why we're creating a Magdalene Feast Day gathering next Wednesday. Welcome to the Black Madonna Codes, a weekly conversation for women leaders who know the sacred feminine cannot be contained, sanitized, or erased.
Through honest conversation about how the Magdalene principles are woven through history, race, spirituality, and current lived experience, we are widening the story and honoring the many cultures that have carried this wisdom.
We're inviting you to open your heart with us as we explore the Magdalene path with curiosity, humility, and reverence for the lineages we carry.
Hey.
Hey. This is so exciting. We're also streaming to Instagram for our first time. So welcome to those of you watching from Instagram or wherever you're watching from. We're glad to have you with us. We have had so much fun on these shows. This is episode 12 of the Black Madonna Codes. And, we've gotten so much beautiful feedback from people about these conversations, how needed they are, how different it is to like bring together these divine feminine spiritual concepts interconnected to liberation and leadership and how we're showing up as women today. And so let's explore this question. What is it about Mary Magdalene? Like, as we've had these conversations, so many beautiful things have come forward, both I think in our personal lives as well as what I've heard from women on the Magdalene interview series about what continues to draw people to Mary Magdalene and to Black Madonna after all these years. Where do you start, Deidra? What do you think?
I start with I think there's from an energetic, esoteric perspective, there is an emerging or re-emerging of the divine feminine, which has been suppressed for hundreds of years. And that energy is breaking through, and people are getting access and relating to that in a different way than they had before. So there's that.
Access is so big. Like, information age has been such a gift in so many ways. It's like the oppression is not as potent or possible as it has been in the past because we have access now to stuff we didn't have access to. I mean, when I was a kid, it wasn't easy to read archaeology reports. I don't even know how I would have gone about doing that. I would have had to go to the library and find a book.
Right.
And now
watching Game of Thrones, and they communicate via Raven. And so it's like things happen, and by the time you find out what happened on the other side of the world, it's old news. And the way we can communicate instantly, the way you and I are not in the same city right now, right?
And it feels like we're in the same room. Yeah.
It feels like we're in the same, exactly. It feels like we're in the same room. Just the change, the way technology has changed the way we communicate, and that way it has opened up the way we get information, because my mother bought a set of encyclopedias in 1976. And that was my,
yeah,
that was what I had to use to do research, to write a report or to do a thing when I was growing up. But now you get information to what is happening in real time right now. And so being able to communicate, with communication being so fast, I mean, it's a double-edged sword for sure, because there's great benefits, and then there's also great dangers or problems with that as well, because of misinformation and psyops and all that other stuff. But for the most part, just being able to learn about things that were a secret for a long time. Or you had to be, you had to be a PhD student. You had to go into archives and read the actual documents. And like, you don't have to do that anymore. So much is already cataloged on the internets. And so that's a thing. But I also just feel like it's time. It's time to bring these things into balance. I think sometimes we talk about, especially as women, we talk about the divine feminine and we talk about elevating the divine feminine. And I think sometimes men or masculine centered people take that as like it's a zero-sum game. Like one is going to overtake the other. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can be really intentional about both and having room for both. Because they're both valuable. They both bring, add value and bring a lot to the table, and you need them both, really. So
yeah. I think I've shared a little bit of my own journey with Mary Magdalene, but that was my access point. And I just interviewed a woman yesterday on the Magdalene interview series who nearly had no relationship with Mary Magdalene and knew very little about Mary Magdalene and Black Madonna, but has carried these beautiful Indian traditions. And so for her, it was like, I don't know about Mary Magdalene and Black Madonna, but she's still in the conversations in the divine feminine kind of energy space. But for me, right, like that was the access point to conversations around ancient goddesses and what they represent. And every single time that I learned a new facet of potentials of who Mary Magdalene either was, or medicines and lineages that she carried, or schools that she may have studied in, I would see reflections of myself, of parts of myself that I thought were not allowed as a woman. Like, I feel
parts of yourself that had been exiled.
Had
exiled.
Yeah.
Because you didn't think that they didn't fit, or they weren't right, or they weren't good, or something like that.
Yeah. And some of that it's internalized misogyny, right? It's like systems and structures that I was born into that said, no, not allowed. And so then I impose that on myself. I unconsciously just accept that as truth and impose that on myself. But I think Magdalene also speaks to all peoples who have been exiled and oppressed in these ways, even like in cultures in a bigger sense, because she also experienced exile. That like it whispers to me this hope that exile is never the end of the story.
It usually isn't. It's like, if you're still here, there's more to the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not the end, and every ending is a new beginning.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Yeah.
So there's that. So do we want to talk about the journey of exile to belonging? Or do you want to talk about, I had someone say to me, because we're doing the retreat to France, right? And so I had someone say like, well, why are you going to France? Why aren't you going to Africa? And I was like, well, because Mary Magdalene went to France. But like, how did she get there? Why did she go there? Why there?
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to that a little bit? Tell a little bit about her story?
Yes, which also I totally have visions of like leading pilgrimages to many of the different Black Madonnas all over the world. Like, I think that as we find our groove, this may not be the only pilgrimage that we lead. So I love that question. But yeah, Mary Magdalene. So what we have threads and whispers. We don't have artifacts. We don't have a lot that definitively declares what the circumstances were. but we do have oral traditions, and oral traditions at a time when information age and proving everything scientifically wasn't even a luxury that people had, were everything. Oral traditions were everything. And so I think they have more merit than maybe some circles give them. Oral traditions say that Mary Magdalene arrived on the shores of France in Saint Marie de la Mer on a boat without oars, without a rudder. Like, how does that happen? What are the conditions that create someone going out in a boat? And we know that she was not near France. She was in Palestine area. Like, it was, I don't think it was a planned thing. It doesn't sound like it was a planned thing. And then we have little threads from the Gospel of Mary and some of the other Gospels found at Nag Hammadi, or the Gnostic Gospels as well, that have whisperings of people didn't like her message. People didn't like her connection to Yeshua or Jesus. People didn't like the way that she said what he said, or the closeness that they experienced. So then what happened when he was gone and she's still carrying these pieces? We don't really know. We don't have a record.
What was her message that they didn't like?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's just a few threads that make what she had to say very different than the traditional Christian rhetoric around what Jesus was teaching. One thing is like sin being more a thing of like anything that separates us from our truest self. And not a bad thing, something that is like, it's a block. It's hurting us. We're hurting in some way. It's like this area for lots of love and compassion as opposed to judgment and criticism. So that's one.
Punishment.
Yeah. It's not a place for punishment. There's so that's one that's big. Also, these elements of knowing self, of really, being in connection to self, like the heart as the seat of your truest self. And which certainly didn't fit anyone who was trying to usurp control over people. So, we don't know. Were the apostles also part of that language? What angles was everybody working? Everybody's trying to survive basically after, this big event where there was, huge controversy and everything. And then eventually somehow all of the governments are taking over the Christianity, like, oh, now it's ours and now we like it and now we're going to use it for our advantage. So the journey is not super linear, but it's very clear that she was pushed away. You don't just choose to go into a boat without a rudder on it. And maybe you lost your oars, but yeah, it would, all signs point to she was exiled.
And so to me, that speaks to currents. She got there because the currents took her there.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I think about how many people know what that experience is like to, so I think about the transatlantic slave trade and things. It's like, certainly there was someone who knew where they were going, but most of those people had no idea where they were going.
Right.
And the desperation that you feel in those moments to be ripped away from your community, from your everything that was familiar to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then these elements of trust or hope, this element of human resiliency. My kids are so cushy. We've created a very cushy life for our kids. And so when we get to the point in the movie where the character has to choose resiliency or just giving up in defeat, my kids are always like, I think I would just opt out. Like, I think I'd just be like, okay, tapping out of life now. That's way too hard. I don't want to live like that. This conversation comes up all the time. Like, you know, and it's because their life is so cushy. They're like, ugh, like if I had to live paralyzed for the rest of my life, for example, like I think I'd rather just end it. Or if I had to, and yet we see again and again where people are resilient and there's a reason, you know. So if Mary Magdalene should have just, you know, jumped ship, which there's no judgment, many people have done that in that place. But because she chose not to, she ended up in France and she ended up connecting with and teaching a lot of people across the land of France. And we don't know definitively that the Cathars are a group of people. We don't know definitively that they were carrying her teachings, but there's a lot of threads that show that this group with millions of followers were carrying her teachings many, many years later. So what she did made a difference. It mattered that she arrived in France and continued to carry this work. Whew, it's big stuff.
It is. But it also mirrors where a lot of people are right now in their own lives. Just a feeling of being disconnected, right? Exile. Disconnected from things that are important to you, people that are important to you, feeling like I'm not connected to this job or this work I'm doing anymore, or like we were saying earlier about disconnecting from parts of yourself because you do feel like they don't fit or they're not worthy, or things that happen in your past, things that you're hiding or hiding from.
Yeah.
All of those are forms of exile.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like Mary Magdalene carries this message, not that she's the only one, but like when you get to know her, she carries this message of like, maybe it doesn't have to be like that. Like maybe there's a different kind of belonging. Maybe there's beauty in some of these really dark places. Maybe they're not even dark. In many cases, in my world, in my excavation of inner self, it was like when I really just pulled out the tigers in the closet, right? It's like, oh, you're fun.
Right.
I like you, actually.
Right. There's the thing, and then there's the story we have about the thing. Right? Which sometimes if we just face it, we find that, it's not as bad as I thought it was, or it's not what I thought it was. So
but it does typically come. I feel like the more I've committed to these parts of self and living in a wholer way, because I have the privilege to make that choice, it also does tend to come with additional exiles around me, of community, of family, or jobs, or, you know, these things where it's like, well, in order for me to stand in myself and what I know, I'm not feeling in integrity to continue to stand in these rooms that I have stood in previously, or I'm standing for my truth in the room, but everyone is very clearly not happy about it.
that's another way to do it for sure. Yeah, it is. It will take you on a journey when you get to that point where it's like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to fake it anymore. And so and what is the next step after exile?
Well, we talk about liberation. We talk about that place where you find, I mean, that's what we're all after, whether it's in the, your physical freedom, your internal freedom, your sovereignty. We talk about, whatever steps we can take to be in relationship to that. I see women all over the globe doing this work, feeling this discomfort that we previously were taught to just push it down, that discomfort is not necessary. You're just depressed. You're just anxious. Do whatever you can to fix that shit so you can stay functioning in the systems. Now you're like, I'm listening and I'm going to take steps towards freedom. That's the next piece, is taking those steps to freedom.
Right. When you were talking, what came up for me, I'm smiling because what came up for me is keep producing. Don't pay any attention to those feelings. Just keep producing. just keep working. Just keep. And there is something to be said for just keep swimming, because I was also thinking about Ayan Levant wrote a book called There's Value in the Valley. And the valley is like the low place, when you're in the low place, and everybody goes through it. But the idea is to keep going, keep taking steps. Like, don't build a house in the valley. You want to keep moving. But what you're talking about is not acknowledging that you're in the valley, right?
It's trying to just jump over it, build a bridge, do whatever you have to do.
Right. And that doesn't work. It just doesn't. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
Because I did it. And I have watched other people try to do it. It doesn't work out well. So yeah, it's better. It moves you. You get more progress when you just own the thing, when you're willing to face the thing. And like you said, half the time when you face it, it's like putting off something. You've been procrastinating about a thing because you think it's going to be hard, or you think it's going to be tedious, and then you do it in like 10 minutes, and you're like, what was I?
Yeah.
What was in the way there? So, and sometimes it is hard. And you just have to remember that you can do hard things and just do the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think back to Mary Magdalene, and it's like, okay, now I've arrived in a place. I think the majority of people didn't look like her. That's also up for controversy, but I think that she was a person of color. And I think the majority of people in France were not. And she's wondering, is this the place of liberation? And what immigrant doesn't relate to that? Like, I'm here. I came here, especially in America, for a better life. Is this the place of liberation? Like, and the loneliness and the fact that you showed up with no resources, and the fact, how do you make your way and you have no friends, and etc. And so legend says that she arrived, there's different versions, potentially with Mother Mary and Sarah. Sarah's in most of the things, potentially with a different Mary, a friend named Mary. Sarah has different interpretations of who she was. She could have potentially been a servant to the Marys, or she was the daughter of Mary and Jesus, or Yeshua. All different versions. But nevertheless, basically alone, going, okay, now how do I make my way in this new place? And just taking the steps. How much like hope and trust in self does that create? And I think that this is where I have a book concept about this right now. It's called Wild Belonging, because there's this place where you're like, okay, I did all the things, and I'm no longer using belonging as my guidepost for every decision I make. But I still need belonging, because humans need belonging. Like, it is an innate need, both creating that and cultivating that with others as well as with self, which is maybe a less practiced muscle. What does belonging with self even mean or feel like or look like? And I think when we have experienced elements of exile on whatever grand scale or micro scale, you begin to ask yourself these questions, or else you can't find that human resiliency until you start to cultivate some of this inner belonging. Like, I know me, I love me, I know what I stand for, I'm glad I'm here, and I'm gonna trust the journey, and I'm gonna show up with an open heart in some capacity, even though everything has pointed that I shouldn't. And so we do that.
It's like your mission, should you choose to accept it.
Yeah.
For people who are willing to take that on, that is a game changer. That's basically how you get out of the valley. That's the key to getting out of the valley. Right. So yeah. So she's laid out for us a kind of a blueprint, right? How to go from exile, whether you've outgrown the place where you are, like it's just not a good fit anymore, or you've been moved out of that place for whatever reason, or you've been forced to move because circumstances changed. And then you find yourself in a new place and maybe not feeling really resourced.
Yeah.
But you get there, and then how do you make your way from there? What do you tap into? What's required of you in that moment?
Right. Yeah.
And then that process gives way to belonging. Yeah. When you're in that process of making your way through that, you get to belonging or ownership or wholeness, right? When you can love all the parts of yourself, even the parts you don't like so much, or, it gets on your nerves, or you wish it was different. Can you love those parts of yourself?
Yeah.
Can you love the journey? Can you love the uncomfortability? Can you love uncertainty?
Yeah. And I see so many women in so many different, stages of this. And it's probably not really linear, especially when we're dealing with a lot of like internalized exile, internalized oppressive systems, and when you're experiencing micro aggressions towards like poking at these wounds of exile all the time. It's not really linear. And that's why we created this space, because what I have found in myself is the more that I've been able to cultivate these pieces of belonging in myself, the more I'm then able to extend that to others in a way that's so real and genuine. It's like, even some of the authors that I've published, like some of them carry just stories that sometimes people are like, and I'm like, look at this beautiful human. Like, that's what we want people to experience when they come together in space with us, is both to feel this element of belonging among the women that gather, not because we're the same, but because we celebrate each other in our differences, but also cultivating that internal belonging here in ourselves. And I think that is, what a gift to have access to these pre-patriarchal ways of viewing life, of viewing woman, of viewing
transition.
And
change. Yes, pre-patriarchal points of view, and to be able to tap into that. So we do this show once a week, and then we do once a month. We have a gathering, and this month the gathering is very special. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, we're doing a Magdalene Feast Day gathering, which is on July 22nd. It is from 9 to 12 Pacific time, so it's a decent chunk of time. If you can't make it for the whole thing, you can come for part of it. That's fine. And but our encouragement is, as you consider cultivating some kind of practice on that day, on July 22nd, and that come and join us in this space. It's we hold this conversation like this because this is how we lead spaces. And so it is both, yes, you will learn things. Yes, we've even got a fantastic special guest. Sydney McIver of the Blood Mysteries is coming to join us and guide us through some womb pieces and connection to goddess stuff. It's going to be so great. So yes, you will learn things, and we'll go through meditative practices and movement practices, but there will also be a lot of opportunity to be in community and conversation. And then, medicine and the wisdom and even the pain that you are carrying are welcome in the space. Your voice is welcome in the space. So we hope you'll join us. We're super excited. It's going to be awesome.
Anywhere on this spectrum, if you're anywhere on the spectrum, this is a space you want to be in, for sure. It's a conversation you want to be in.
Yeah. So cool. Well, thanks, Deidra. I can't believe we just talked for 31 minutes. I had so much fun. And if you have any questions for us, the link should be in the description on anywhere that you're watching this to join the free gathering. There's also a link to check out the pilgrimage if you're, kind of thinking about visiting France. Maybe you want to come with us in May. It's going to be amazing. But if you have any questions, you can also DM either of us on any of these social media platforms. We're happy to talk with you more.
For sure.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.